Welcome in, everyone. Let's dive deep into Gestalt therapy. You've requested a deep dive on something with so many layers. It's like, wow, asking for a personalized treasure chest of insights, you know? And we're going beyond the surface here. We're going past those simple descriptions to really unpack Gestalt therapy. What makes it tick?
And it's fascinating, because Gestalt therapy, it doesn't see you as just a bunch of symptoms or problems,
Hmm.
right? It sees you as a whole person, completely interwoven with your environment.
This concept of the field, this interplay between our inner world and the environment, it feels kind of intuitive, but how does Gestalt therapy actually approach this? How's it different?
Okay, so imagine this. You're not just reacting to your environment, you're actively shaping it. And it's shaping you right back. It's like a dance, this constant back and forth. And where a lot of therapies might dig into your past to try and understand your present, Gestalt therapy, it focuses on right here, right now. What are you experiencing? Emotionally, physically, even energetically, in this very moment. And how does all of that play into the field?
So instead of going back to old memories to try and explain how you're behaving now, it's about understanding what's happening right now in all its little details.
Exactly, bringing all those easily missed experiences into focus.
Okay, so how does someone even begin to do that? Where do you even start?
And that is where those core concepts of Gestalt therapy come in. Contact, awareness, and experimentation. Contact, think of that as the bridge between you and everything you experience.
Yeah.
How connected are you to your emotions, your sensations, and even the world around you?
I like that you use the word bridge. It suggests there can be a gap sometimes, you know? So contact is about closing that gap, that space between what's going on inside and the outside world.
Exactly. And then there's awareness.
Yeah.
Awareness is like shining a spotlight, a really bright one, on all those experiences you're having. And it's about really, truly noticing them without judgment, without trying to change anything, just understanding all those little nuances.
Okay. So if contact is about being present, is awareness about knowing that you're present and then really paying attention to it?
You got it. And then we bring in experimentation. This is where Gestalt therapy goes beyond just talking about your problems. It encourages you to get out of your comfort zone a little, trying new ways of thinking, new ways of feeling, new ways of behaving.
I can already see how that could be so powerful. You're shifting from just thinking about things to actually feeling them, experiencing them. Can you give us an example? What would this experimentation look like in a real session?
All right. Let's say you always feel like you have to say yes, even when you really want to say no. A Gestalt therapist might actually have you say no out loud. Try it in different tones of voice and see how that feels in your body. Or they might have you push against a pillow just to really feel what it's like to set a boundary.
That's fascinating. It's like you're giving your body permission to express something your mind might be holding back. So it's not just talk therapy, it's action-oriented.
That's it, you got it. Gestalt therapy knows that to make a real change, you often need more than just talking. You need to engage with those issues on a deeper level, a more physical level. And you know where things get even more interesting, how all of this connects back, how these actions, this way of working, ties into this rich history.
Oh, you're really going to send me down a rabbit hole here, huh? There's more to it than just the word gestalt.
So much more. It's not just, some branch of Gestalt psychology like some people think. Sure, there's that connection with how we make sense of things, how we see patterns. But Gestalt therapy, it takes inspiration from physics, from philosophy, even Zen thought.
Zen thought. Now that's a curveball. I wouldn't have put those two together. What's the connection?
Okay, picture a Zen master. What are they telling you?
Yeah.
Just observe your breath. Don't judge it. Just notice it. That lines up perfectly with Gestalt therapy, right? Noticing what you're experiencing in the moment, not trying to change it or overthink it. Just like in Zen, there's this, deep respect for paradox. That sometimes to really understand, you got to let go of trying to force it.
Instead of getting trapped in our own thoughts, always trying to figure things out, it's about finding a different way of being aware. Just a gut feeling, a sense of what is.
You got it. And that's where someone like Martin Buber comes in. Ever heard of him? His idea of the I-thou relationship, it's huge in Gestalt therapy. This idea that a real connection, it happens when you see the other person as a whole being, not just a thing.
So it's not just about the tools, the techniques themselves, it's about the relationship between the therapist and the person they're working with. It makes me wonder, how has that relationship changed in Gestalt therapy over time?
Oh, that's a great question. See, earlier Gestalt therapy, it sometimes leaned into confrontation, like really challenging a client's defenses head on. But as you can imagine, that intensity, it wasn't always the best approach, especially not for people who've been through trauma.
That makes sense, especially now that we understand more about how trauma affects us, how our nervous systems work. It's not always about pushing through our defenses, but more about making a safe space to be vulnerable.
Exactly. Over time, Gestalt therapy shifted to a more relational style. The therapist isn't some expert with all the answers. They're more like a guide, walking alongside the client, exploring together. It's about curiosity, compassion, really listening deeply.
I love that. It's like we're all human in this together. There's no hierarchy.
And within that shared journey, that's when the therapist can start to bring in those experiments we talked about earlier.
Oh, yeah, let's dig into those a bit more. Before, you mentioned the empty chair technique for working through conflict. How would that actually work in a session?
Let's say you're having trouble setting boundaries with someone. A Gestalt therapist might suggest this experiment. Picture that person sitting in an empty chair, right across from you. Now, say what you need to say to them. Let out your frustration, your disappointment, even anger, whatever you're holding back.
It's like you get to be honest about your feelings, even if you can't say it to that person's face.
Exactly. It brings those buried emotions up to the surface. Sometimes those emotions, they're tied to old experiences that still affect us today.
So it's not just venting, it's uncovering deeper stuff.
Precisely.
Mm-hmm.
And as we become more aware of these patterns, we start to see where the limitations are, things Gestalt therapy might not be the best fit for.
That makes sense. No one size fits all. What are some of those limitations?
Well, if someone is dealing with a serious mental illness, Gestalt therapy by itself might not be enough. It can be a great addition to other treatments, but in those cases, they might need medication or other therapies too. It's about having different tools in the toolbox. And while Gestalt therapy encourages us to embrace our emotions, it also recognizes that we don't have to act on every feeling. There's this balance between honoring our emotions and making choices about how we express them.
It's a good reminder that understanding ourselves is a journey, not a destination. And just like any journey, we need to be smart. And sometimes we need a little guidance.
And that is exactly where a skilled therapist can be so helpful. They can help you make sense of everything that comes up, help you navigate it all.
So how does Gestalt therapy help us go from just understanding these patterns to actually changing them?
That's the real magic of Gestalt therapy, you know? It helps you rewrite those old stories, the ones that might be holding you back from living your best life.
Rewriting those old stories. I love that. It's like we're taking control, becoming the authors of our own lives.
Yeah, exactly. And like any good author, we need to understand our tools. Gestalt therapy, it gives you those tools, not by telling you what to write, but by helping you find your own wisdom, your own voice.
So we're not getting a pre-written script. We're figuring out the story we're meant to tell. How does Gestalt therapy help with that self-discovery?
It's all about creating a space for real exploration. You can try on different perspectives, try out new ways of being, and figure out what feels true to you. And that takes, willingness to just be present. Whatever comes up, you're there with it. No judgment, no need to fix it.
We've talked a lot about being present today. It's clearly a big deal in Gestalt therapy. But for someone who's, always in their head, how do you even do that? What are some of the techniques you can use to get there?
There are definitely specific techniques. Guided imagery is a good one. We haven't talked about that one yet. Let's say you're feeling anxious. Instead of just talking about the anxiety, a Gestalt therapist might walk you through picturing a place where you feel totally safe, totally calm. And as you connect with that image, you start to notice what's happening in your body. You tap into a different kind of knowing, a physical sense of peace, and that can be incredibly powerful.
It's about shifting from thinking about feeling calm to actually feeling it, right?
Exactly. And sometimes for someone working through like really deep-seated patterns, a Gestalt therapist might use something like dream work.
Dream work. You mean like analyzing what our dreams mean?
That's part of it, but Gestalt dream work goes way beyond just interpreting. It's about bringing that dream into the present moment. Like you might be asked to actually speak as different characters or even objects in your dream, giving them a voice, giving them a body. And that can unlock some really surprising insights into those patterns you keep repeating. You start to see the needs and emotions underneath it all.
It's like you're making the unconscious conscious, bringing all those hidden parts of ourselves out into the open. But what about when we feel stuck? Like we know the pattern is there, but no matter how aware we are, it doesn't change.
That's when the therapist's role is so important. They're there to guide you, to help you see what's keeping you stuck. They can gently challenge those old beliefs and encourage you to try something new, a different way of being. Remember, change is a process. It's not going to happen overnight. There will be times when it's messy, when it's uncomfortable, even frustrating.
So it's not about reaching some perfect state of like ultimate self-awareness. It's about the journey.
Exactly. It's not about being perfect. It's about being human, embracing all of it, the good and the bad, the strengths and the vulnerabilities.
This has been amazing, eye-opening, really. I feel like Gestalt therapy, it's not just a set of techniques. It's a whole new way to approach life with more awareness, more authenticity, more compassion for ourselves and others. Like, it gives us permission to step into our own power. We can create our own experiences.
And you know what I find so powerful? It reminds us that we're not alone in this. Just that relationship with the therapist, it can be so healing, so essential for growth.
Having someone there with you, supporting you, guiding you, seeing things from a fresh perspective, that makes a world of difference. So for our listeners who are intrigued, who want to dive deeper into Gestalt therapy, where should they start?
Honestly, find a qualified Gestalt therapist in your area. Maybe schedule a quick chat, see if it feels like a good fit. Trust your gut. The most important thing is finding a therapist you feel comfortable with, someone who feels safe, supportive, someone who gets you.
And remember, this journey of self-discovery, that's a lifelong thing. Be patient with yourself, stay curious, and trust that you have the power to grow and heal. Thank you so much for exploring the amazing world of Gestalt therapy with us today.